We have
The Hogs despise this video. George Orlando's 1964 is a book I want to read. Wait. Oh my God. That's this community's meme. That's 100% this community's meme. That's like, is he in there? Does he make a joke about that? That makes me so happy. That's 1000%. Like, I've never seen anyone else make that joke. That makes me so happy. George Orwell, 1989.
I've heard it said over and over again, mostly by the likes of Ben Shapiro, that academia is a hostile environment to conservatives. Academia hates conservatives. It ignores them. It censors them even. Higher education has become this cultural Marxist SJW far-left bubble, this big safe space where no other view is tolerated, and conservative views are outright hated. But is this really true? So let me tell you a bit about my personal experiences in higher education. I have a degree in the humanities. I've graduated from a rather average university in Central Eastern Europe, but through the Erasmus exchange program I could spend one whole year at Heidelberg University in Germany. Now Heidelberg is Ivy League.
Commie. Fucking commie, dude. Literal commie, dude. I can't believe it. He's getting his education. Imagine getting fucking free. Imagine getting free education, dude. It's disgusting.
It's cutting-edge, top 100, serious research, huge budget, and a campus the size of a small city. Now, my degree involved quite a bit of sociology and cultural studies. So in both universities, I was near the fire, so to speak. I was doing the subjects that are considered to be most overrun by crazy leftists and cultural Marxists and what have you. So did I encounter any conservative viewpoints during my studies at any of the two universities? No. We had many political discussions with my fellow students, and honestly, I cannot recall people who were even right-leaning, much less conservative. And why is that? Let's take Heidelberg University as an example. It has extremely high standards, and it's very difficult for a student to get enrolled there. This is no for-profit community college, only the best and the brightest can get in. And those who do generally possess traits such as rationality, open-mindedness, curiosity, and a readiness to change one's mind in the face of new evidence. And right here we can start seeing the problem. Do any of these values describe conservatism? Absolutely not. They are in fact antithetical to modern conservatism. So right off the bat, universities have a selection bias against conservatives. And keep in mind, this is not deliberate. It's just a natural consequence of how the world works. But even if you do manage to get into academia as a conservative, holding your average conservative views such as anti-gay rights, anti-trans rights, anti-immigration, anti-big government, anti-abortion, and anti-welfare, you will find that you will not be able to engage in any sort of meaningful discussions inside academia. Turns out academic discussion is a bit different from poll threads. And so suppose that, as that stereotypical conservative, you try to enter this academic space where minority rights are being discussed. The topic of discussion being the socio-economic circumstances of Roma people in Central Eastern Europe from the point of view of government policymaking from 1920 until 1989. Now,
he just brought up a trigger word for like every European. Oh no. Americans are about to find out how racist EU folk can get. He said Roma people.
You entering this space and offering brilliant and incisive commentary such as brown people bad will most likely get you kicked out, perhaps not on the most polite terms either. And the reason for that is because contemporary popular conservative views have been desperately outpaced by modern academia. We know that gay rights don't lead to the collapse of the traditional family. We know that trans rights don't lead to the end of the two genders and a mass sex change operation wave for gullible children. We know that immigration doesn't lead to the fall of Western civilization. We know that big government doesn't lead to communism and George Orlando's 1964. We know that women's rights to an abortion is a mostly beneficial thing. We know that welfare programs work and that the bootstrap mentality doesn't. For multiple decades now, conservatives have been on the losing end of every single socio-economic debate, including issues such as segregation and women's rights to vote. And this actually ties back to a larger issue within conservatism, which was also voiced by Andrew Neil, UK.
That's wrong. Those are Democrats. You know, I know I like to see I say the N-word right now, but you know, it was the Democrats that were saying it back then.
Arch-conservative during his famous interview with Ben Shapiro.
I'm interested that you think there's a thought movement inside the Republican Party. I mean, haven't the Conservatives run out of ideas in America? All the new policies, the Medicare for all, $15 minimum wage, the Green New Deal, they're all coming from the left, and they're popular.
Well, frankly, I'm confused by the idea.
Conservatism has not brought a single new idea to the table since decades. Modern conservatism has become this amorphous protest movement against the left's imagined hypocrisy, a movement that is driven at...
I don't know if I agree with that. I think conservatives are incredibly successful at going against the popular, better interests of working class Americans. And I think that they do a really good job with it. I think the deck is stacked in their favor. When it comes to policy, folks, I'm not talking about like fucking, you know, culture shit. Okay, I don't give a fuck. Shut up. Yes, a bunch of gay people make all the fucking art. Sucks to suck. Maybe you shouldn't be homophobic. And then maybe, you know, all of the fucking queer art people would not have moved away from the dumbass fucking rural towns that they grew up in and, you know, became tortured artists, okay? But having said that, as far as success when it comes to policy, I think conservatives are incredibly successful, and the deck is stacked in their favor. And what I mean by that is, in America, since the neoliberal, this is kind of an EU take law. There's lots going on internally in America with conservatism, like way deeper. Yes. Conservatives are very good at running against Democrats, liberals, and dismantling leftist ideas over and over again by basically weaponizing a center-right media apparatus against any sort of like legitimate progress that would threaten the status quo here in the United States of America. Unfortunately, that is the reality. Look no further than the lack of progress in this country as it pertains to truly improving the material conditions of the working class, whether it be labor union rights, that is still the most effective way of ensuring that there is autonomy and ensuring that there is any sort of fucking vehicle to push back against the contradicting interest of capital. Look no further than the lack of access to healthcare, lack of healthcare in general. Look no further than the fact that we do not have any public housing initiatives, that housing is not decommodified in any meaningful capacity, and we have these massive problems. To see the profound success that conservatives have been able to show in the field of policy where it actually matters. Conservatives have also gutted congressional power. They routinely stack the deck in their favor, despite running the country from a minority government. And that, what I mean by that is that there are less conservatives overall than there are progressives in this country. And they have dismantled congressional power and gridlocked Congress by utilizing the unequal system of the Senate. They have also created a system in which, even in Congress, in the House of Representatives, where there's supposed to be a more proportional representation, they've destroyed that through a sequence of gerrymandered districts. Obviously, Democrats engage in this as well, don't get me wrong, but nowhere near to the same level of that Republicans do. Then you have the Electoral College for the federal level. All the while, the Republican obstructionist minority government will then turn into a majority government and do everything in their power to continue dismantling congressional power, continue dismantling or continue harming any sort of like social safety nets that we might be able to put together, and ultimately, stack the courts with activist judges while projecting that the liberals are doing the same, when I wish they certainly have not. And that's pretty much it. They run this fucking country, and the Democrats, in my opinion, have a shared interest in allowing the reactionary Republicans to continue running the country, even when they themselves are in power. The Biden administration has actually taken some interesting steps against that, I will admit. I mean, I think it's gotten to a point where like the working class is so desperate for some change, some positive change, some social democracy, that there was a bipartisan bill that's slated to be passed. There's 9 Democrats holding it back right now, which is really fucking annoying. Or not 9 Democrats holding back the bipartisan bill, but the other one. There's an infrastructure bill at play. There have been serious government spending so far that is actually pretty helpful in comparison to previous governments in the way that they've spent their wealth. So there is some change there, but by and large, the Democratic Party also benefits greatly from having Republicans maintain this control so they can fundraise against them and keep putting their same fucking, coffin-loving, geriatric fucks in a position of power over and over again. So that's it. Because ultimately, if Democrats were to advocate and truly legislate the values that they espouse, the values that they fucking act like they care about every 4 years when they remember that actually they have to do something, then they would harm the status quo. They would actually have to work against their corporate benefactors, the very same corporate benefactors that pay both them and the Republicans. So they never do that. They never do that. So no, I do disagree. I think that when it comes to cultural issues, yeah, Hollywood is very liberal. In many ways, though, liberalism just means center-right politics in a lot of issues. Obviously, it's like pro-gay, pro-women's rights, but nothing to speak on when it comes to improving the material conditions of the working class in general, regardless of what their gender or sexuality or ethnicity, ethnic background is. We rarely ever do classist restitution. Hollywood does not advocate for that either. So yeah, there it is. That's why a lot of people say, yes, I'm socially progressive but fiscally conservative. Yeah, you're not fucking unique. A lot of Republicans or libertarians are like that. Anyway, rare gaming on this channel. Okay, everybody chill. Like, I'm still eating. After I'm done eating, I'll fucking game.
At this point by nothing else but fear and the blind, uncritical celebration of some imaginary glorious past. It has become intellectually empty, bankrupt. What major cultural war issue can we debate on an academic level if they have been proven wrong? And don't get me wrong, nothing is truly settled
He is right about this stuff.
science, but the discussion will shift eventually as new evidence becomes available. Academics might have discussions about race relations and might do studies about race relations, but no one's talking about the inferior skull shape of the Negroid race anymore. You know, academia didn't forcibly excel.
Okay, the European jumped out for him to say that. A little bit unacceptable for a white person to say.
Conservatives from its ranks. It's just that conservatives have dug their heels in and they got left behind. And I'm not saying it's impossible to be a conservative and an academic at the same time. These people do exist.
Those are the terms, yeah.
But they're like an evolutionary biologist who's also a young Earth creationist. I mean, it's certainly possible and people like this do exist, but you have to do some pretty hardcore mental gymnastics. And you have to really compartmentalize your beliefs if you want to do any meaningful academic work. Otherwise,
there is nothing and I mean nothing more honest for a conservative to advocate for than race realism and phrenology. Why? Because in the naturalistic order that they see the world, you have to, by design, tie that back to a biological justification. Otherwise, people are good and people are bad for no reason other than some fucking holistic, spiritual, nonsensical reason. So with respect to that, it's like dialectical materialism for leftists. Like, conservatives have to believe in race realism. And that's precisely why, deep down inside, they do. They might not even recognize that they do, but they do. And it comes out when they say stuff like, well, I don't know, black culture is just like different, right? Like that's why they are in that situation. That is race realism. That's just racism. What you know is racism. Race realism and phrenology, or race science, simply takes that very same idea that like black people deserve to be subjugated and tries to put a intellectual or a scientific patina around it. Now we obviously understand that it's completely disproven and it's ridiculous, except unless you're fucking Sam Harris and you have Charles Murray on your fucking podcast and defend him routinely, even though he's literally a fucking race realist and has been debunked many times over and basically has like written books on like the bell curve that specifically say exactly what I just said, but try to justify it through looking at like, average IQ and a bunch of other disproven methods. So that is the way to tie your ideology, your worldview with a neat little bow. Conservative academic is just a fancy name for an anti-vax doctor. I feel you, but brothers from New York are just different. They always do that when around what? Blacks never relax thing. They're in echo chambers. The alt-right doesn't want a differing opinion. Any person that thinks they're able to be the authority on a topic with such high fucking stakes is delusional. Is no one listening to me? I'm looking at the fucking takes in the chat and it's like, everyone is just like saying the dumbest shit. They retrieved the van? Wait, what? What the fuck? How? Van has been retrieved. Story. The man who has been living / squatting in my room while I've been gone stole the van, then left it at a no parking zone where it was towed. What the fuck? I love Andrew, dude. He's such a fucking... He's so crazy. Listen, man. If you're not gonna fucking listen to anything I have to say about this video, then listen to my words. It's top of the fucking hour. That's right. And what that means is that there's a 60-second ad break coming up right now that I have to run, a contractual obligation. But of course, you can avoid those ads if you subscribe for $5 or if you subscribe for free with a Twitch Prime. You can also use an ad block or a VPN, but Twitch Prime is free, especially if you have an Amazon Prime account. You are not obligated, bro. Don't lie. Yeah. I'm a fucking liar. I'm lying to you. That's why I never, ever, ever fucking ran ads until I had to and was very upset about that. And also run significantly less ads than every other top creator on this platform.
As if you really were
you fucking caught me.
True to your core beliefs, all your research papers would just read, God done did it. And that's a big reason why there aren't too many creationist biologists. Or for that matter, conservative academics. And that's the reason why academia is so left-leaning. There is no conspiracy, there is no censorship, there is no ill intention. It's just that if you understand how the world works, how society works, and you know enough about history, it suddenly becomes really difficult to be a conservative.
I disagree. I think most liberals are conservative academics. They are deeply conservative when it comes to their worldview and how they believe the economy should run. Like, neoclassical economics with emotion is just fucking fascism, dude. You can get mad at me all day.